when you put somebody else down to make yourself feel better.
I feel bullying is either when you physically abuse somebody or verbally abuse them or exclude them from something.
Bullying is when kids will verbally or physically abuse other kids.
Bullying is when someone is mean to someone else to feel better about themselves.
I feel it can cause suicide, depression, and if an individual is young and they're still in school, I think it will cause poor attendance, which leads to poor grades and possible failure.
Lower self-esteem, definitely self-image issues, and possibly suicide and depression. The effects can range from, just physical abuse technically and, depression, suicide, anxiety, self-harm, and all the mental issues that come with it.
People can be depressed and not want to come to school.
Before I talk about the effects of bullying, I'd like to talk about the myths versus the facts. A common myth of bullying is that bullying is a problem mostly for boys, but the fact actually is that girls bully just as much as boys do. Another common myth is that stereotypes only affect children when they're older, but the fact actually is that kids become aware of stereotypes at the age of 3. There is also a belief that kids do not worry about their body image until their teenage years, but the fact of the matter is that 2/3 of 9-year-olds are scared of becoming fat. One of the most common misconceptions about bullying is that it's an equal problem for all people, but in reality, it's more of a problem for people in minority groups. A common myth is that if the victim tells, it will make matters worse, but research actually shows that people that report bullying tend to have the problem removed easier. As you can see, bullying is not everything we think and should not be simplified into the stereotypes we tend to believe. One of the biggest and worst problems about bullying is that it causes suicide and suicidal thoughts. And nationally, suicide is the leading cause of death among youths. Victims of bullying are 2 to 9 times more likely to consider suicide. A study in Britain found that at least half of suicides among young people are related to some type of bullying. About 80% of youth that commit suicide have some type of depressive symptom, and depression is very common among children that have been bullied. Unfortunately, there is not enough evidence to prove that bullying directly causes suicide, but what we do know is that most kids that are not involved in bullying do not have any connections to suicidal behaviors. The next problem I will talk about is cyberbullying and who is at risk for cyberbullying. First, let's talk about what cyberbullying is. Cyberbullying is a serious problem that refers to when a child is targeted by another child in the form of harassment by internet technology. Cyberbullying affects victims and offenders alike. Cyberbullying victims are 2 times more likely to commit suicide, while cyberbullying offenders were 1.5 times as likely to report having attempted suicide. So as you can see, cyberbullying is not just a problem among the victim. Although cyberbullying cannot be identified as a sole predictor of suicide in adolescents and young adults, it can increase the risk of suicide by amplifying feelings of isolation and not fitting in. Although cyberbullying can be a problem for anyone, there are people who are more at risk for cyberbullying. These people are usually people that are in minority groups that include, but are not limited to, sexual identity, race, and gender. To further prove my point of how much suicide and cyberbullying are a problem, I would like to share with you Amanda Todd's story. Amanda Todd was like any other typical 15-year-old teenager, but unfortunately, she made the bad mistake of exposing herself on a webcam to an older guy. This guy, however, took this way too far and ended up sharing the picture of her exposed self on the internet, and people from her school slowly found out about it. This guy even started stalking her. Every time she moved schools, he would go undercover and become her friend. Every time Amanda moved schools, somehow the kids found out about when she exposed herself. They would ridicule her and beat her up because of this. Eventually, Amanda felt she had nowhere to escape to, and unfortunately, she committed suicide due to the bullying and stalking being too much. Unfortunately, Amanda Todd is not the only person who's committed suicide from bullying. This is Tyler Clemente, and he also committed suicide from too much cyberbullying. Tyler was 18 years old, and he was just graduating high school and attending college the next fall. When he attended college the next fall, he decided to come out as gay. Unfortunately for Tyler, though, his roommate was not very supportive of him being gay, and he decided to expose him by setting up a webcam in their dorm room, and he recorded videos of him kissing other boys. Tyler eventually found the videos of himself showing up on his roommate's Twitter page. He then also became the topic of ridicule among his classmates around campus. Tyler had no one to turn to and could not take this amount of ridicule, so unfortunately on September 22nd, 2010, Tyler committed suicide. Another very harmful effect of bullying that people sometimes do not think about is eating disorders. There was a study that was performed to view middle and high schoolers' eating behaviors. They found that the children that were bullied were more likely to be involved in unhealthy eating behaviors. Middle schoolers who were involved in bullying in the past 12 months were twice as likely to report unhealthy weight-related behaviors. The results of the study indicate that any involvement in bullying was associated with unhealthy weight-related behaviors. The results of the study also showed that body weight perception, bullying involvement, and depressive symptoms were all connected. Symptoms of bullying were associated with significantly elevated odds of reporting unhealthy weight-related behaviors. So as we can see from the findings of the study, eating disorders are no joke, and bullying should be avoided at all costs to help prevent eating disorders. Finally, I will talk about an effect of bullying that is commonly overlooked because they think our students are just lazy or do not want to go to school, and this is poor attendance and bad grades. UCLA conducted a study in which they were trying to connect bullying with poor grades. They found that a high level of bullying was consistently associated with lower grades in all 3 years of middle school, and the students who were most bullied performed academically worse than those who were not. And in a case of bullying, it is obvious that the student would want to stay home from school. It is not that the student does not want to go to school, it is that the student is afraid of going to school because that is where their bully is. Therefore, parents should take a closer look into what is actually going on in their student's life. Bullying may be the underlying cause of their students' bad grades or not wanting to go to school. Now that I've talked about all the effects of bullying, there's a bigger problem at stake. How do we end it?
Starts at home. I think the parents need to have a better input with their children and advise them and show them how bullying can affect things. But I also feel the school needs to be involved in trying to correct this and go about it a better way.
I think if we made a bigger deal of bullying and had harsher punishments for bullies, that people would be less likely to. A way to fix it is, we can make everyone more aware of the situation that kids are being bullied and they're, hurting. And we should, maybe establish some sort of program so everybody knows, and then just generally teach your kids and other kids that, you should be nicer to people.
Teachers and students should be more informed about bullying and report it when they see it.
Every one of these people had good ideas on ways to end bullying, but through my research I have found the most effective ways are to build bullying prevention material into their curriculum and to train teachers more effectively on how to deal with it, and also to change individuals' perceptions and attitudes. So let's all come together to try to end bullying for good.